student to this massive open online course. Today we are going to discuss India's population policy. After completion of this module, you will be able to understand what is population policy, family planning and India's 5-year plan, impact of India's family planning program on India's population growth rate, steps towards rational population policy, National Population Policy 2000 and 12th plan and family welfare program. First of all, we are going to discuss what is population policy. Well, population policy refers to all the legal and administrative programs and all the steps taken by government to stabilize the population, that is with the objective to reduce the population growth rate and to improve the quality of life. In case of India, we can say that in case of India also, Indian government has adopted population policy to reduce the growth rate of population and to increase as well as ensure basic standard of living to all the citizens of India. Indian government has adopted several population policy and time to time has changed and widened the scope of the population policy. Now the question is that what was the impact or what are the impacts of this population policy? Well, some statistics can be given to this manner. You know, what is actual figure of India's population size in 1991 was 183 million, and now in 2001 it became 1027 million. So it seems that India's population policy was a failure. However, it is not that. That is what we are going to discuss today. Next, we are going to discuss family planning and India's 5-year plan. So, India globally recognized as the first country to implement the family planning program in 1952. However, the serious thinking about the population size reduction or to reduce the birth rate was first documented in third-year planning, because it was documented in third-year planning that the objective of the population policy is to reduce the population growth rate and to ensure basic minimum standard of living to all the citizens of India. In order to implement that, first emphasis was given to reduction in the birth rate, and it was stated that birth rate should be reduced to 25 per thousand live birth by 1991. However, the actual achievement was far away from the target. In 1983, on recommendation of the Planning Commission, working group on population policy was formed. And by the recommendation of this working group, National Health Policy 1983 was introduced. In that health policy, it was said that India should reduce its net fertility rate, and the target was set that the India's net fertility rate should be reduced to 2.1% by 2000 AD. And to achieve that target, some other goals are set, like reduction of the crude birth rate to 21, reduction of the crude death rate to 9, reduction of the maternal mortality rate below 60, and the proportion of the population practicing family planning above 60. However, an interim review committee was formed, and the review committee report said that the actual achievement was far away from the target, and India needs at least 2006 or 2011 to achieve that target. So, from that we can say that India's population policy was a failure. However, it was the 7th plan when India's population policy actually got successful. 7th plan introduced some new measures to, uh, enhance the scope of the population policy. First was the motivational program to bring awareness about the family planning, and for that Indian government used mass media, that is TV, radio, newspaper, to aware the people about the family planning techniques. Secondly, Indian government supply contraceptives at all levels of people in rural as well as in urban areas. Financial incentives were given to the families who were adopting two-child small family norms, and most importantly, extensive sterilization were practiced for male and female. It was the first policy which actually got success in achieving the target of reduction in the birth rate. About the family planning program, whatever adopted by Government of India, we can say that it was a cafeteria approach. Now, what do we mean by cafeteria approach? Cafeteria approach is that where the government is not relying on a particular type of family planning techniques. Government is adopting all the scientific methods of family planning techniques, because government didn't find any particular method will be appropriate for the Indian population. Moreover, what was new about the India's population policy is that government relied on spreading of education and improvement of economic growth as a weapon, as a technique for family planning. Now, we have to discuss that impact of this family planning program on India's population size, because India is a overpopulated country. There is no doubt about it. All the demographers will agree on that fact. We can say that in 1978-79, approx 1.5 million people were sterilized. It rose to 2.79 million in 1981-82, and it further rose to 4.90 million in 85-86. So it was not like that India was not get any success. However, there were always a distinction between the achievement and the target. The question is that why Government of India is not able to fulfill the target. The demographers are with the view that the population policy, whatever implemented by the Government of India, are not rational. So, what is rational population policy and how can we achieve that one? That is what we are going to discuss right now. The steps towards the rational population policy frame-up. Okay, so first of all, we have to identify why population grow. The demographers are with the idea that it is the poverty which is responsible for population growth. Why they are coming to this conclusion? They found, or it is patently true, that the elite or the rich class have total command over the property, and the income from property acts as a social security as well as old age security for them. So they prefer to have a small family so that they can maintain the basic or the improved standard of living and they can live a quality life. On the contrary, if we consider the poorer section of the society, then the fact is completely different. For poorer section of the society, children are considered as the social security or old age security. Secondly, for poorer section of the society or poor family, larger the number of children, larger are the hands for earning. Larger the number of children, larger are the scope for having one or two sons. Now this is the point. In Indian society, generally, sons are considered as the old age security. And in order to have one or two sons, the family size generally increases. And one most important thing is that, the parents consider children as their old age security. So if the number of children are more, then even if one or two children or some of the children migrate to other areas in search of livelihood, at least one of them will be there to take care of them. All these facts contribute in increasing the number of children in a poorer family. So poorer family have a strong preference towards the larger size of the family. So what we get? Rich family has a preference for the smaller size of the family, and poorer family has a preference for larger size of the family. Secondly, demographers are with the view that we cannot separate population policy with that of the economic development policy, with that of socio-economic policy. So to have a successful population policy, we have to include all these aspects of development, socio-economic development, with that of the population policy. And rational population policy is one which is integrating the socio-economic aspect with that of family planning, the economic development aspect with that of family planning, and family welfare with that of family planning. The first stepping stone towards the rational population policy was that when poverty alleviation program was included with the family planning. So family planning program becomes an integral part of poverty alleviation program. It was first time in 2006 the government introduced Rural Employment Guarantee Program, National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, and that was the first correct step government had taken that time. Again, Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana was introduced in 2008-9, and that was also a correct step towards a formation of rational population policy. So rational population policy will be one which is targeting or integrating poverty alleviation with that of family planning, which is targeting or integrating social security with that of family planning. And government of India has adopted such type of family planning program first time in 2006, and then it extended to 2008-9. Now what was the consequence of that? The next is that how much this family planning will be successful. What are the factors behind the success of this family planning program? Okay, what we got, that poverty should be alleviated, and the poorer section should not consider large family as their social security or their old age security. So some sort of program should be available to them so that they can consider that we don't need children or we don't need to increase the family size to ensure our social security. How can we do that? Well, that can be done only by increasing the survival rate of the children, and that is the next step towards a formation of rational family or a formation of successful family planning program. So what we are going to discuss next? We are going to discuss family planning, maternity, and the child's health strategy. So after going to long way, Indian government identified that in order to have a successful family planning program, what we need to improve the survival rate of the children. It was the 7th plan, as I mentioned earlier, that 7th plan was identified as a successful plan for the implementation of the family planning program. This is because the 7th plan adopted all the rational steps to motivate the people for family planning. So it was the 7th plan where first time it was identified that only by increasing the survival rate of the children we can motivate all the section of the society to for the small family, 2-child small family norms. And it was decided that the survival rate of the children to be increased as well as maternal mortality rate to be reduced. And most importantly, to ensure the quality of life, the standard of living, basic standard of living to each and every citizen of India. Now, we are going to discuss the current national population policy. It was the last population policy, that is the National Population Policy 2000. The NDA government finally announced on 15th February 2000 the National Population Policy 2000. Now, what was the objective? Well, as usual, the objective was to reduce the population growth rate, and it was decided that the population growth rate should be reduced to 1% by 2026, and to achieve that goal of stabilizing the population, the target was set to 2046. Various steps, number of steps were taken. Most important was that, the Parliamentary Act was changed, and it was decided that Parliamentary Act should act in such a way so the states which are overpopulated should not get any reward. The states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, who were successful in implementing the family planning program should be rewarded, and the states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, who were not successful in that way implementing the family planning program should be punished, so that we can motivate people to adopt the 2-child small family norms. There are some other steps were taken. Most important, I have already discussed that this one, the changes in the Parliamentary Act. Other than this, what programs were taken? Well, reduction in the infant mortality rate to 30 per live births, reduction in the maternal mortality rate to 100 per 1 lakh live births, universalization of the immunization, then financial incentives for adopting the sterilization policy for women particularly, then the rewarding the family for adopting 2-child small family norms by the way of providing health insurance, particularly those are below the poverty line. And another important steps were taken: strict enforcement of the Child Marriage Act as well as Prenatal Diagnostic Technique Act, increase in the age of marriage for the girl to 18 years, and reward will be given if the marriage age is 21 years, etc. These are the steps were taken with the objective to stabilize the population size by 2046. As we discussed earlier, that the latest Indian population policy was announced by NDA government on 15th February 2000, and that is our last population policy. That is the population policy which was the new National Population Policy 2000. And I have already mentioned what are the steps taken for reducing the population growth rate with the objective to stabilize the population by 2046. And interim period, the review committee was developed interim period, the review committee submitted their report, what we observed that the word family planning is like a directing someone to what to do and what to not to do. So the problem actually in the terms of family planning, that was identified the review committee. It was, I already mentioned that seventh plan was a successful one in terms of the implementation of family planning program. So it was in the first identified in the seventh plan, and the term family planning was replaced by family welfare program. Our last family welfare program announced in 12th 5-year plan, that is also our last 5-year plan. After that we do not have any planning commission. We have right now Niti Aayog, and instead of having 5-year planning we have yearly planning. So that in 12th 5-year planning some targets were set under the heading of family welfare program. That included all the child health strategy, health policy for Indian citizen, everything. So that policy set some target like infant mortality rate to be reduced 25 per 1000, maternal mortality rate to be reduced 100 per 1 lakh, and net fertility rate to be reduced 2.1. Most importantly, the sex ratio, and not the adult sex ratio. It is the sex ratio about the 0 to 6 year, and which needs to increase from 941 to 950. So that was all about the family welfare program. That was all about the family welfare program, which was first discussed and implemented in 2000 in 12th plan, and that is continuing. That is still continuing. 2011 was a landmark census, in the sense that this is that census where the socio-economic aspects are addressed, and perhaps the last census so far we have. So in this census, what was the unique point? Reporting of 0 to 6 year sex ratio, for as well as reporting of number of elderly in the population. What was the target for Indian government? From the beginning to end, it was stabilizing the population. And how it was achieved? It was achieved through reduction in the birth rate. Birth rate reduction means supply reduction of 0 to 14 years population. People are getting older. So 15 to 65 are considered as the working age population, and 65 and above are considered as the elderly population. Now an economy is considered a graying economy, a elderly economy, if the proportion of the elderly population to total population is 7% or more. So elderly process or graying process in India started from 1991, and India is the home or the residence of world's largest elderly population. Although India is a largest contributor of the demographic dividend, with a larger proportion of population within the age group 15 to 64, that is the working age group. So 65 and above are considered the elderly population. Increase in elderly population and reduction in the working age population means increase in the dependency ratio. That is also an alarming situation for Indian economy. However, India is not in so much bad position, but the elderly proportion of the elderly population in the total population are gradually increasing. And according to United Nations, 2026 is the year when the proportion of the elderly population in the total population will be 12.6%. So situation before getting more worsened, we have to do something, and government needs to adopt one more rational population policy. we are at the flag end of today's discussion. So we are continuing with the new National Policy 2000. However, if we go by the line by line of the policy recommendations and policy point out, then what we are getting, that emphasis was given to the on women for sterilizing the population. That is very unfortunate. Increasing the age of marriage for girl, reward financial incentives for women for maintaining small family norms, two-child small family norms, for sterilizing, etc., is it's looking like that we are we are giving emphasis to the woman, and we are portraying that it is the responsibility of the woman to stabilize the population policy. According to the critics, the population policy will be appropriate, the population policy will be successful if and only if we can address all the aspects of poverty alleviation, we can address all the aspects of social security, and most importantly, we can give emphasis to both male and female, and we can put responsibility on both shoulders to stabilize the population. Thank you.